Hey, it's Friday evening. Mark's message. Peachtree Corners, Georgia, the peachiest place on the planet, bar none. And yes, I am coming from you from the metro Atlanta area. Atlanta has lost a great one. Henry Louis Aaron, known as the Hammer, Hammer and Hank. Pitchers notoriously called him Bad Henry because of what he did with that piece of wood in his hands called a baseball bat. What a magnificent player. Atlanta was blessed to have Mr. Aaron here, right here in Atlanta. He, just so you know, just a little bio. I'll do this real quick. I don't want to bore everybody, but I kiddingly say baseball's more than life sometimes. And I'm going to share some analogies here. And we're going to kind of get into a couple things like baseball and business and sales and how it's all kind of relative and what you go through day in and day out. So, he was born 1934 and he passed January 22nd, 2021, 86 years young. He batted right, he threw right. He got his start in 54 with the Milwaukee Braves. And then, what was kind of wild is for Atlanta for like 20 some odd years. And then he finished up October 3rd, 1976 with the Milwaukee Braves. So here's the cool thing about Aaron, which I think a lot of people tend to forget. His lifetime batting average, 305, hits 3,771, home runs 755. And on that infamous day, and I remember it all too well, 1974, I know how old I was. I actually watched it on TV. And yes, Move Over Babe, 714 to 15. And then Aaron went on to set some more records there with the home run sector as well as hits and everything else. So he got his start initially with the Negro Leagues in 1952 with the Indianapolis Clowns, and then his debut, like I said, Major League, Milwaukee/Atlanta, 1954 to 1974, and the Brewers 75 to 76. His career highlights, just real quick, and then I'll get into what I really want to talk about. But I got to do justice to the Hammer. He was a 25-time All-Star from 1955 to 1975. You want to talk about setting the standard out there? Okay, this man set the standard. He was a World Series champion in 1957, National League MVP 1957, three-time Golden Glove Award 58 through 60, two-time National League batting champion 56 to 59, four-time National League home run leader 57, 63, 66, and 67. And then on top of that, he was a four-time National League RBI leader. That's runs batted in for those that may not know. 57, 60, 63, 66. And his number, the infamous double four, 44. And he's in the Braves Hall of Fame, America Fieldwalk Hall of Fame, Major League Baseball All-Century Team. Obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame. That happened in 1982. So why are we talking about Hank Aaron? Well, obviously, he was a magnificent performer in a game I love. You can see the background of me. I've got my umpire's hat on here. I love baseball. I truly do. It is my sanctuary. It is the only thing to me at times that makes sense. There's a lot of things going on in the world today. I'm going to share some quotes with you from people that are in baseball that kind of analyzes the game versus reality versus life and how we fit into this cog, this thing called life out there. But the thing about Aaron, too, is the man was a type of guy that quietly led by example. No fanfare. He just went up and did his thing on and off the field. A perfect gentleman, Henry Aaron was. There's no two ways about it. So, what are we talking about here when we talk about like life and baseball? And I want to share some things with you. And there's some of them are pretty funny, but I know we all know this gentleman, Yogi Berra. Baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical. Love that one. That's a great quote. And then here, late great Tommy Lasorda, there are three types of baseball players: those who make it happen, those who watch it happen, and those who wonder what happens. And when you take that particular quote, you can put it into the business perspective. You can put it into any arena of life, vocation that you care to. That is a mouthful right there. And, Tommy Lasorda, great manager for the Dodgers, no two ways about it. Here's another one I like, and then I'll share a story with you. Baseball is like church. Many attend, few understand. Think about that. Baseball is like church. Many attend, few understand. Leo DeRocher was manager of the Giants and later the Cubs. Quite the character as a manager, very colorful indeed. But speaking about stories, whenever I hear church, always reminds me of this pitcher. He finally leaves the face of the earth. And so St. Peter comes knocking on his door and says, "Hey, you made it. Follow me. We're going to take you upstairs. I think you're going to enjoy who you're going to be playing with." So he goes up to heaven and he checks out the field. It's immaculate, like you would not believe. And he starts looking at all the players and, what they're doing. And there's a spot open up there for him to go on the mound. And he says, you mind if I just kind of observe and take a look? And St. Peter says, sure. And so he does. And right when he was getting ready to take the mound, St. Peter said to him, there's something I forgot to tell you. And we do this with everybody. Allow me to take you downstairs. And he's like, wow, you talking about downstairs really? Like, where, Satan is? He says, yeah, we have to do this. So he said, follow me. So he goes down, takes the elevator down, and all of a sudden opens up into a field like, man, it's like blinding. He looks up at the sunlight, super bright, and there are guys playing baseball like you would not believe. And he's like, wow, these are like the superstars. These are the guys I always wanted to play with and I admired growing up. And St. Peter's looking at him and he goes, I can't leave you down here. If I leave you down here, you can't come back. So he starts thinking about it and he says, man, I've just got to do this. So all of a sudden, the mound opens up. They announce his name. And, it's like Satan's all-star team out there. And there's batter after batter. And so they said, hey, man, hop on the mound. So he goes out there, throws a couple warm-up tosses, and he's getting into his rhythm. And he looks over at St. Peter. He says, you know what? I can't help myself. Man, I decided I'm going to stay. So he's out there and he's throwing pitch after pitch after pitch after pitch and mowing them down, and they're cheering and everybody's going crazy. Now it gets into like 9 innings. Now we're into 18 innings. Now we're getting into like, 25. And, he starts looking around and now it's up to 30 innings. He's been pitching. And he kind of looks around and there's Satan in the dugout. He's the manager and he kind of yells in there and says, hey, when does the inning end? When do we take a break? He looks at him with a smile and says, never. So let that lesson be learned there, right? Here he wanted to play in that all-star team and not everything that Glitters is gold. That's the moral of that particular story. But I just thought I'd share that with you. We've got a couple people out here which I'm going to recognize. And we have Randy Chafee. Good evening, my friend. Hey, Randy. Just talking about the hammer, Hank Aaron. And we also have Kenneth Mayberry. Hello, my friend from Annie's Pizza, Louisville. Yes, Louisville. And we all know who resided in Louisville, the greatest of all time, the man himself, Muhammad Ali. And Kenny, when you get that pizza together, let me know, buddy. I'll be more than happy to help you promo it. But let's take a look at a couple other quotes here I wanted to share with you, which I thought was kind of cool. Here's another great quote. The great thing about baseball is there's a crisis every day. Now, Randy and Kenny, you being in the business world, you can relate to this. And it's all a matter of perspective and how you handle things. Everything is not going to go perfectly crystal clear the way you'd like it to day in and day out. And yes, you will have challenges. And it is. It's all a matter of your attitude, how you handle it. Like Jeffrey Gitomer says, you have a yes attitude. You know, because, hey, you know what? Do you think you're going to lose a sale? Ask Randy Chafee that, or Kenny. Yeah, you're going to lose one or two. And the thing about baseball that I love, you can go 1 for 3 and, make the Hall of Fame. You can go 3 for 10, and if you have a close rate like that, that's not too bad. That's pretty respectful. Got another comment up here. Baseball player, Pee Wee. Yes, very true. And I will tell you who the Pee Wee played with, Jackie Robinson. And he was a Dodger. They were both Dodgers. That's a great point, Kenny. Great, great, great point. Pee Wee was some player. So the other thing I want to talk to you about is this. Can you only imagine what Aaron had to do to hit all these home runs? And the closer he got, now at that time, I wasn't in Atlanta per se, but when he was knocking on that proverbial home run door in 1974, the hate mail and things that people said, not only to him, his family, just think of that. Day in and day out, going to play a game you love. Now you got to deal with all this craziness, which is kind of analogous of what's going on today. But Aaron, being what he was, a true gentleman, took it in stride. But it really had to test his mettle when you break it down its purest form. I would imagine the only guy, and this has nothing to do with even though they were both pursuing home runs, I would say that Roger Maris, although his is totally different, I know he wasn't beloved so much by Yankee fans, but they didn't want him to break Babe Ruth's, record either. So they do have a common bond there, commonality. But it's just amazing how Aaron, what he had to go through to knock in that home run door. And when he did it, man, that was awesome. And I'll tell you, I was in high school. As a matter of fact, I will date myself. I was a senior in high school when he broke that record. So, that was something to watch too. We were just like on pins and needles, like, man, is this going to be it? Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And man, when he hit it, that was a retro bomb. But let's take a look at another quote here as I got them up here. So we'll go on. Making the majors, this is a great one, is not as hard as staying there. Staying interested day after day is like being married. The hardest part is to stay married. Wow, what a mouthful. I remember when I got married, my dad told me one time, the easiest thing in the world to do is to get married. The trick is to make it work. And I think, Hank Aaron did make it work out there in the baseball diamond as well as off the field. So, but what a statement. And I picked that for a reason. He wasn't all about baseball. He was a guy very active in civil rights in his own way and very active in, doing the right thing. And, the guy walked tall in my book. And I never had a chance to personally meet him. I've seen him from afar, but he always conducted himself like a gentleman. Oh, well, thank you, Kenny. I know I'm starting to rant a little bit, but my whole point of coming on here tonight was not so much to talk about baseball, even though I love it, but I do have to acknowledge, Aaron, because we did lose. Atlanta lost one of its favorite sons. And by the way, if you are out there, I will say this once again, the pride of East Lake himself, um, Benjamin Franklin Gay III. I know you know of the Hammer, Hank Aaron, and we lost a great one. Um, what a cool dude to watch play, though. What I always admired about him, regardless of the situation, he didn't show emotion. He just did what he had to do, and those quick wrists to him, and bammo, he would just attack a baseball. That's why pitchers labeled him as Bad Henry. He's probably one of the hardest outs to secure for a pitcher. I mean, you probably dreaded even facing him when there were two outs and nobody on base because you're like, man, I can't screw up because if I do, he's going to take care of business. Somehow he's going to get on. So I just wanted to share that particular quote. There is another one, I believe, if I'm not to be mistaken. Yeah, here's a cool one. This is a great one. The great thing about baseball is there's a crisis every day. Gabe Paul. And he was a player, manager, uh, known throughout baseball as well. But there's another great quote from the late, great Gabe Paul. So I wanted to share that with you. And I appreciate you guys hopping on here this evening. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is very simply this. Regardless of how bad it gets, you know, somebody always will come along with something more challenging than you had to go through. So everybody's unique that way. We all have a story, we all have a purpose. And, the main thing that I came on here tonight is to talk about Aaron, the man, more than the baseball player. I read you some statistical data about him, but here's a guy that came from Mobile, Alabama, and came from nothing and took it all the way to the major leagues, and the rest is history. And point being is we all have skills, we all have things that we can do better, we all have things we all need to work on. Nobody's perfect. And if you approach each day like a baseball game, that day's over, that bad business transaction, that bad, sale that didn't happen, it's all gone. Let it go because there's another day. And that's how you have to come at things, with a fresh perspective. I mean, you can't dwell on what used to be. Some people are still fighting over this COVID thing. They want it to go back. We're going to go back. We're going to go back. Certain industries out there, I'm not going to mention names. I was in one of those. It's not going to be the way it used to be. So you have to adapt, improvise, and overcome. And with that, I'm going to conclude on that note and thank everybody that joined. I hope you appreciate the replay. And most important of all, Mark's message, peachiest place on the planet here, Peachtree Corners. Be a leader, be a friend. Most important of all, be of service. And remember, since we talked about baseball tonight and Hank Aaron, and now the baseball gods have him, remember this, always, always, always. Together, you and I, as we take our approach in the batter's box of life, if we keep swinging for the fences, eventually you and I will shoot, knock it out of the park. Once again, this was Mark Gassard. Mark's message, Peachtree Corners, Georgia, the peachiest place on the planet. Have a very enjoyable weekend with your family. Get rejuvenated, ready to rock and roll for next week. and I will see you on Monday. Catch you.